Going on?
Popping.
Where Jay at?
Let's go.
What's up, fella?
Going on? What's going on?
Yeah, man, we need to raise the energy. Let's go,
Yeah,
bro. Raise the energy up, man.
It's been a long day, I tell you what.
man, another dollar, man. We getting to it, man. We back at it. Back at it.
How y'all day going?
I don't know. I feel like another Monday to keep it a buck.
Yeah, it don't even feel like Wednesday, man. It's been a long week. Long week.
No kidding. No, that's good though. We're almost there, halfway.
Oh, yeah, we there. We there.
Anyway, let's get into this thing, man.
Go.
Um, we had a lot of good conversations last week, a lot of good answers, a lot of good topics that came up. Obviously, it'd be nice if we could dive into everything, but there's just too much. There's too much to cover in one recap episode. But first of all, to start off, Walt, where are you getting these hoodies, man? I mean, because I have one,
Hey,
but
bro.
is that the second one? Because were you wearing a gray one, or I can't even remember, gray one or white one last week?
Yeah, but no, man. It's a work in progress though. But that's that YMCM merch right there. That YSM podcast merch. You know what I'm saying? We got the all white, gray.
Heard you.
I want to shout out my guy Noel, man. He got y'all can follow him on Instagram. He got a little clothing line going on, and it's Soul for Seattle. So Soul, like Young Soul Minded Soul for FOUR .Seattle. Follow him on Instagram. He got, honestly, if you hit him up, he can do whatever, from hoodies, t-shirts, pants, hats, whatever you got, whatever you need, man. He can hook it up. So
You got a NIL deal or something, man? Marketing.
gotta guess it. We gotta keep talking too much. Hey, all y'all need to know is if you want to support them, the group, you know what I'm saying? Up, man. It's a work in progress, but I put it on my social media, my Snapchat and stuff, and people are rocking with it. So hopefully we can get this thing going and put it out for you guys. But feel free, man. If y'all rocking with it, let us know, because y'all feedback is everything to us. So if y'all rocking with it, let us know. If y'all ain't rocking with it, still let us know. You know what I'm saying? Any feedback is good feedback. So just keep.
No, it looks smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited when we finally drop them.
Oh yeah.
But continuing on, let's dive into the big game that happened this past Sunday. Obviously, the Super Bowl. It was a fun game, man. It was a lot of fun.
It was
Two
good.
teams that were somewhat actually pretty likable, honestly.
Mm.
Um, it was kind of different though, not seeing like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, somebody in the Super Bowl. Kind of felt like a new generation thing, honestly. So, what y'all thoughts on the game? I wanted the Bengals, but
Yeah,
obviously couldn't pull through.
I think we see the new face of the NFL, man, coming up with when Joe Burrow. You know, I think the AFC is so stacked right now with young cats. You got Josh Allen. Obviously, you got Patrick Mahomes. You got Joe Burrow now.
Yep.
Um,
Herbert.
yeah, you got Herbert. Like, oh, you got out there growing crazy. So, but it was a good game though. I was more hyped about the halftime show. You know what I'm saying? That was legendary to me. So that was like the first time that obviously I was excited for the Super Bowl, but I was damn near more excited for that halftime show, and it turned out good too. So, but overall, it's a good game. I lost some bread as usual. You know what I'm saying? I put my down on the Bengals, so I lost my bread. But when I hit that bet, y'all gonna know I'm gonna come in here hype one day. So just stay patient.
That was a good game. I was kind of upset because I didn't think the penalties in the last couple seconds of the game was, I don't know. That wasn't right to me because they wouldn't call nothing all game until that last drive.
Hey, you know what them refs need to do? Them refs need to do our podcast because we talk about this, man. So that ain't be on the biggest game of the year and not be consistent. Now, I'm not saying they were bad calls, but I'm just saying if you're gonna make that call and not,
The first one was bad.
but
That
at the
was
same,
not.
the T Higgins, you know, he gave a face mask to
That
Jalen
was,
Ramsey.
That's true. That's true.
How do you, for both sides, not just rooting for the Bengals, just watching the game and seeing what's going on? Like, if you're gonna call that in the last 2 minutes of the game, in the most that's a game right there. And you're not gonna call it in the first, second, or third. Like, you gotta, the refs gotta be more consistent on that. But at the end of the day, Joe Burrow still had a minute 45 with 2 timeouts to get in field goal range. So I mean, they still had that opportunity to get it. So I wouldn't necessarily say the game was blew by the call, but it was a momentum shift.
For sure. I don't know if it was a minute 45.
Bro gonna be back.
You
Oh, for
think
sure.
you think you think he's gonna be back
Bro gonna be back.
next year or the year after?
I say at least 2 times in the next 5 years.
Wow,
The Super Bowl?
Yeah.
dude,
I see. That's
that's
a
tough, man.
that's a bold statement right there because it's like 2 times in the next 5 years. Yeah, that could happen. That could happen. I can get them.
AFC is tough though.
I'll say AFC Championship instead of because they got to see Kansas City again. You know, I think NFC, the KFC or not KFC.
Patrick Mahomes washed, bro. He's done for.
I that's what I've been saying. I don't think they're gonna make it back like that because they got to pay him 47 mil next year.
too much.
50.
Like they're not, yeah, they're not gonna have any money to pay anybody. He's taking up a third of the money.
But they need a line first. Like you can't you see with the Seahawks. You know what I'm saying? You paying the top quarterback all this money, but if you ain't got nobody to protect them, you know. They say this man sprained his MCL. Joe Burrow sprained his MCL in the Super Bowl. Like he can't be taking hits like this. If that's your franchise guy, you gotta invest. You know, you got Jamar Chase. He's locked down for at least the next 2 years on his rookie contract. At least 2 years. So you gotta worry about that. You know what I'm saying? You can just pick up some guys to take all the light off of him that can get you them couple yards, but I think they need to invest in the O-line straight up. That's their only gotta play. Yeah.
Well, he was the most pressured QB and blitz quarterback this season, and was still number one against the blitz. I think he got sacked like 70 times a season. Like that's too much. And he already tore his ACL last season.
Exactly. But hey, if you a quarterback though, play quarterback. Like, I don't know what that's like. I usually sack the quarterbacks. I was the one hitting y'all. So what's that's like getting sacked? He never been sacked like blindside hit. Like 70 hits? That's gotta have some wear and tear on you.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. But it says a lot about him, because when you take a hit, when you're taking like 5, 6 sacks a game, like sometimes it kind of like not necessarily get to you, but you start to think about it a little bit in the back of your head. You're like, dang, I'm starting to get banged up a lot. Like,
That gets you paranoid in the pocket.
I see this guy coming off the edge a little too much. Like you start kind of overthinking a little bit. But you saw all game, all playoffs. He's a poised dude, and just nothing phases him really. So, it speaks a lot just for him to be in the most sacked, but also number one against the blitz. It's like that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Especially for him not really being like he is mobile, but that's not his like strength. You know what I mean? So it's pretty impressive in my opinion. But another thing too, like what's all this beef with Eli Apple? Like,
Bro,
I
don't even know.
Burnt toast. His mama drops him off at practice. Like, what's going on?
This man, bro, like this dude is. This man ain't in the NFL, so I can't call him mediocre at the house. So, but at the same, like the fact that he was talking that much crap, like if y'all saw what he was talking after the AFC Championship, the divisional, the wild card, this man was talking mad crap. And even
What was
in
bro
those games,
saying?
he like, for example, like he was, he said something about Tyreek Hill or like Nicole Hartman or something like that after they beat him. He was like, went on Twitter, he was like, some foul, like just some childish.
Well,
like
I think he said he was going to send them tickets to the game.
To the Super Bowl, and then once he lost, they said they took a photo of their Super Bowl ring and said, "Hey, like you'll get it one day, fella. Like you'll get it one day." So, I mean, this the Heat. You got to be able to take the smoke. Like you can't just. You know what
I'm saying that the beef with him started all the way when he was at New York.
He's the man be like if you just watch it, like the dude was getting like worked, but like he had some plays, but you gotta if you're gonna talk that crap, like you gotta be locked down. Like that's why Richard Sherman,
That's
when he
what I was just gonna say.
If you're gonna talk that stuff, especially with social media now, you posting dudes highlights, you tagging them, you adding them, all this crazy stuff, and then you're gonna give up a buck, next week and lose again. You're gonna get backlash on that. So he got to know that he can't just be because, even though y'all team won, what did you do?
Right.
And like y'all, 3 highlights of you getting cooked.
Hey, regardless, it was a good game.
Oh, yeah.
Um, really, it was back and forth. You're on the edge of your seat the whole game. Halftime show was good, so it was a good Super Bowl, man. I'm happy that it had the most views this year by like I want to say a good 6 to 10 mil people. So that's pretty impressive too. But I wish we could continue to talk football the whole time, but unfortunately we can't. Last week we had Coach Ford, Coach Thomas Ford. Shout out to him again for joining us last week, man. That was really good stuff. It's a good 45 minute conversation just on, how to be a genuine person, regardless of your skin color. Does that add into the equation? Is that enough? We talked about being authentic. We talked about being a coach. We talked about being a husband. We talked about being a friend, being a good teammate off the field. So a lot of topics that we covered. But one question that really stands out from that podcast episode specifically was one, and it said, how do you turn Black struggles into advantages? That was the big question of the night. Now, while we continue to talk, for those of you who are on live, please go ahead and enter any questions that you may have, whether that was about last week's podcast, any questions you have about upcoming guest speakers that you may want to see. This is just kind of a recap episode, so we're here to chop it up. But Jalen, go ahead and kick us off with your answer to that question.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that just gives you the opportunity to, like we talked about, Walt, just be great,
Mhm.
stereotypes, and just kind of stand strong as a man. Because before anything, you're a son of God, a man, and your actions speak louder than any stereotype, any misconception. So it just gives you the opportunity to have your actions really speak for you. Um, I think that's important, especially as a man in this generation.
Exactly, bro. Like I agree with you on that one. Like just like you said, the Black struggle, like just growing up, as a Black male, like you always know, like you always been told, like you got that target on your back, and we always heard the stereotypes and stuff like that. So you got to be mindful of it. You know what I'm saying? Like if you know that, like okay, these are what people are probably thinking about me. Like even though a lot of people don't want to say it, but like they're probably that's the stereotype. You have that opportunity, like you said, be the bigger person and break those stereotypes. You know what I'm saying? Break that, like, hey, we're not all aggressive. We're not all this and that. And at first, it's going to be kind of, they're going to say you're different. Like, oh, you taught the common word in the Black communities are you don't talk Black. You don't talk like what does that mean? You don't talk Black, but you know what I'm saying? I'm just giving you all a little sprinkle and I'm gonna answer the question, but this gonna be have the topic where we want to talk about 45 minutes on, but just to flat out answer that question, you got to be mindful of that struggle, which being like just having that target on your back, just because of a race and those stereotypes. You gotta basically outdo that. You gotta look the other way on that. You can't realize like this ain't it. Like this is not the truth. This is just a what's the right word? This is just a false perception of
Yeah,
something. You gotta just keep pushing and like I always say, you gotta stay 10 toes and stay consistent on what you gotta be and have that vision and keep prevailing.
Yeah, I think one thing that is important, when we talk about advantages is it really starts from within and it
Yeah,
starts from not necessarily working on yourself, but kind of changing your lens too. Because, if you don't deal with your own experiences, like let's just talk as a Black man, for example. Obviously I grew up Black. We all did, obviously, but having those lessons about police, having those lessons about racism in school, racism in the workforce, racism in sports, like all those things were taught to us at a young age. So that's like step one. Then you get to step two where you like experience it for yourself. That's a whole nother experience. And then that's step three where you're on the outside of it looking in, like seeing it happen to someone else. So there's like three phases of it. But I think what's important is being able to step back from each of those phases and kind of break down, okay, how can I be better or how can I change the narrative or change the perspective on this specific aspect? And you can turn that to an advantage, not only for yourself, but for other people.
mm-hmm.
And that we all talk about podcasts is to impact other people in our community. So having that platform and that perspective and that knowledge of how to act, how to handle yourself as a Black man or a Black woman, can also impact younger generations too.
Yeah, like you just said it, man. Like I had lost my thought, but I was gonna piggyback off of you, but like you were saying, it's gonna be hard though. Like it's step one, like black male, black female. You always talk about cops and stuff like that, and um, you're being told that. And that step two, you experience yourself, you know, and like I can speak on being a black male. Like I've been racially profiled before, and I've been through those steps, and like it's a hard step. It's a hard transition. Like we talk about just that transitional period. Like you feel like you're just part of a statistic, like, oh, because that's another stereotype. Like you see it, and people make jokes about it, like, oh, the cops and black people and all that stuff. But like when it
Yep.
actually, when something happens to you that you've been told about since you were little, that happened years before with your parents and your parents' parents and stuff like that. So it's hard, you know what I'm saying? But as black men, you got to realize what that struggle is and what that pain is, and you got to flip it. You know what I'm saying? You got that fire, you got to turn it into something. You know what I'm saying? Whether that being overcoming something, like an actual physical altercation or whatever it may be, or just a mindset, like, man, like, why am I in this mindset? This how it shouldn't be. Like, I can talk a certain way. I don't have to talk a certain way. I don't have to go about things a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Just breaking out of it, you know what I'm saying? So you just got to turn that and put it towards something else. But you got to acknowledge that though, because you always got to acknowledge your struggles, because if you don't know what it is, you can't really fix it or know how to maneuver through it. So that's the hardest part, in my opinion, is just acknowledging it.
Now, here's a
On
question for the both of you, and Jay, you can go ahead and start us. I'm gonna kind of put y'all on the spot, but as a black person, when you're dealing with someone that is ignorant or doesn't understand what we go through, what is the process of kind of like quote unquote coaching them or helping them grow in their expansion of their mentality to see from your lens? Now, like one thing is it possible? Like, should we have grace, and should we be help others become open minded, or is it something where they should just know it?
I say
What's the
first,
dynamic of that?
I would say first thing, it depends on how old that person is. Because if you're dealing with somebody who's 60 plus, the chances that that misconception is further ingrained into what they grew up like, that's going to be a little harder to communicate or show them through your lens. And if it's somebody our age, then it's probably a high chance that the person that raised them is a little worse than them. Um, so like I think you can talk to them, you could try to show them your lens, but if they're not open minded in the first place and they're not willing to hear you, and they're not willing to step back from their privileged life or whatever the case may be, then it's going to be pretty hard for them to fully recognize that till they see something with their own eyes. So you can try as hard as you want, be as graceful as you want. At the end of the day, if they're not going to understand it, then that's just something me personally, I would just take a step away from. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna completely be like I hate you or none of that nonsense. But I'm just gonna tell you how it is, and if that's what you're gonna stand on, then shoot, that's the reality of it. It's not supposed to be like that, but that is what people got to deal with. So
Yeah.
it's difficult, but like I said, at the same time, there's a lot of people out there like that, um, and I feel like eventually it'll come around. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, hey, you're a good man, because that's something that's challenging for me. Like, hey, I'm a very emotional person. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know that I'm a very emotional person, and when I'm encountered with that situation, especially with me being black, I grew up in Kirkland, Washington. There was nothing wrong with it, but it was a predominantly white area. I went to elementary, middle school, high school, predominantly white schools. Most of my friends to this day are white. You know what I'm saying? So just growing up, like putting them on game, like a lot of them were just, some of them were black, back, some of them just like you say, it comes back to being open-minded. Now, I had a handful of them that were like, oh my God, like, you know, even to this day, like I have some that I grew up with, like, you guys gotta, your parents talk to you to the cops, like, what is that? Like, your parents did what? Like, what do you mean the cop? Just comply. You know what I'm saying? I think I don't know who said it, but like even when you comply, like it can end deadly. So it's just like there's a difference between being non-open-minded and ignorant, or just flat out not knowing. And those are two different situations. You know what I'm saying? And the ones that are just ignorant and not open-minded to it, then those are the ones, like you said, Jaden. Those are the ones for me that are hard for me to deal with, because something like that, like it's
They try and
about me.
trigger. You gotta understand, bro. When somebody like that, the reasons their thoughts like this is strictly to trigger you. And what happens when you get triggered? It's gonna be.
Exactly.
That's what I'm
And I've
saying.
done some things where to keep it a buck, I've had to get physical with somebody, you know, in the middle of the street.
No, for
It's
real.
like, and like, damn, I got some anger out, but at the same time, I'm sitting at myself like, I really let bro get me mad like that, like
Yeah.
off some words.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Hey,
no, I mean it's difficult,
I
but
think I think the tough thing is we live such in a society of like social media, like access. Like all you have to do is just type a couple words and boom, you get the answer. But then even when you present facts to somebody, they're like, nah, no, you didn't you
bro,
didn't you didn't go through that.
just for example, like just I think that George Floyd was 2020 or
Yep.
19, 2020, yeah.
2020.
Now, unarmed black man deaths by police, that's something that obviously in the black community, we've known for years. That's just something that's happened. We can name off a count of, incidents just in 2019, 18, 17 that happened. But for some reason, George Floyd, I feel like that was the first one that you saw the whole get down, and seeing a bunch of white people and those were the ones that are open minded. You know what I'm saying? You go to these rallies, you go to these protests. You know what I'm
we
saying?
gave
It was different for me. You know what I'm saying? And those, like I said, there's two different types of people. There's the ones that want to trick you, but then there's the ones that are just not educated. And those are the ones you can walk side by side with and be like, you know what, like this person here, they just don't understand. Like, but I'm gonna teach them and I'm gonna inform them. You know what I'm saying? They might ask a question that could offend you, but at the same time, if there's people that just doesn't understand, I can bear with those people. You know what I'm saying? Because I know in their heart, it's nothing intentional. It's just, hey, why is that though? Why do you get scared when you see a police car drive by? Like, it's just the police. Like, they're gonna give you a ticket. You're like, hey man, it's not just a ticket, it's my life. You know what I'm saying? For you, it's that fee. But for me, it's like, man, my life can end right here. So
Yeah.
a lot of people, just that emotion right there, a lot of people don't understand that. And like that's why I'm so glad we got this platform and this podcast going. We need to put that message out, you know what I'm saying, and share our stories, you know what I'm saying, because we're well known people in our communities, and I think that what we're doing is great, and it should have an impact.
I think for me, like to take it even a step further, it wasn't even about like if you were Democrat, Republican, like it was never about that for me. Like you can have a different view. I'll respect it. It was the
Mhm.
people that had that opposing view that didn't want to acknowledge the fact that we're talking about a human being. We're talking about human beings. Skin color is different, but we're talking about human beings that are getting treated a certain way in our society, and some people just don't care. And I'm like, and there's a lot of friends I had that would say, well, I don't think that's true. Like he should have done X, Y, Z. And I was like, okay, let's put your little brother in that situation right now. And put your little brother there. That happens to your little bro.
it's over,
What
man.
are you gonna do? Like for real, like seriously, what are you gonna do? And they could like those people could never answer because they know what they do. And it's like at the same time, I think all of us we talk about representation, and the type of representation that we see in the media is negative. So when we see something that happens to George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, it's things like that. It's like it burns inside of us. It's like, man, that could have been me because it very well could have. It could be any of us at any given time. So
And
it,
some
it
people, that feels like, man, some people just having that feeling like you're seeing someone like you. A lot of people don't know what that feels like, you know what I'm saying? And as a black man, like we have that fire, we have that, we have that
It's passion.
It's that passion about it, and it's so strong that like we tend to come off so not aggressive, but we come off so just passionate about it. But like you got to just compose yourself, just break it down. Like, hey man, that could have been this. How it is. It could have been your such and such. It could have been your cousin, whatever the case may be. Just like they didn't have an answer.
Yeah. Because
They
I
always.
think even just at a young age, like I think I remember, oh gosh, my first conversation with my dad was like when I was 9 or 10, and he was telling me how to like what to do if we got pulled over. I was like, at the time I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, no big deal, right? But then I actually like I've been pulled over myself, just like a couple years ago, and it was like I remember those conversations that my dad had with me, and it was like sitting there, putting your hand up on the wheel, like waiting for the cop to come to your window, and it's like, can I reach down in my glove box? Can I grab my papers? Can I grab my wallet? Like having to ask questions like that, it does something to you, like psychologically for sure. And even I remember in high school, my sophomore year, I was going out with some friends, and I was wearing like I think it was like a red or yellow hoodie or something, and I rolled it over my head, and I was about to walk out the door, and my dad's like, he's like, take that off, go change. I was like, what are you talking about? Like I was upset 'cause I had a fit on, man. I was ready to
Was
step out.
drippy. Was
I was ready
drippy.
to step out. And he was like, go take that off, go change. And I was like, I was mad at first. I was like, what is the problem? And then it wasn't until like 2, 3 years ago when I started to see stuff in the media for myself. I remember that conversation. I remember that time when I was a sophomore, and I was like, okay, now I get it. So I think that, like you said, Walt, like having this platform to be able to talk about these things openly and communicate, and even just by the dialogue that we're seeing in the comments right now, just having these conversation starters, I think is helpful for other people to kind of express how they feel and feed off that too. But one last question that we'll go over, as we're kind of running out of time here. But I think Coach Ford, he really went into detail about every question that was asked, which I truly appreciated. One that stuck out to me though is being a genuine person. As we've been talking this whole time today about skin color and being black versus being white, the differences, the experiences, etc. But as a genuine person, regardless of your skin color, where you're from, is that enough? Like, is that enough when it comes to these experiences? Is it the same for everyone? Is it different? How do we kind of break that down? Jay?
Yeah. Um, is it enough? I think that's really up to you to answer that question, because let's say it isn't enough and you stop being genuine. Well, then that's kind of like messing up who you are. But I think being genuine can go a long way, for somebody, regardless if you're being brutally honest about something they don't want to hear or telling them good things.
Yeah.
Especially if it's coming from somebody that actually cares about you. But I would, my personal opinion, I definitely would say it's enough, because like sugarcoating stuff, or it doesn't really communicate fully. And I can say that from being the person doing that and having that be the situation for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult, especially now when everything's so artificial. Like, because you got to understand, being genuine is not always going to be the best looking thing. It's not always going to be the most appealing.
Or reciprocated.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's a loss. It's low key losing itself. I hate to say that, but with technology, social media, shoot,
Yeah.
even the food we eat, like we could go into a big conversation, but like it's just losing its genuine concept. But I think it's important to keep being genuine. So, because if you're genuine, someone's probably gonna feed off of that and be a little
Right.
more genuine. But if you're not, then it's kind of just, it's back to that light concept. Like you can either shine light or just kind of just be flickering over there or be in the dark.
That's a good answer. Well, what about you, Walt? Last second thoughts.
Oh yeah, last second thoughts. I think like kind of what he said. You just gotta honestly, actually, no, I'm taking my own route on this one. Like I think that it's um doing something. Obviously, I think it's enough being genuine. Just flat out is enough because it's like if you're doing something that's not in return, if you're doing something just out of kindness of your heart, but it's
Yeah,
always it gotta be reciprocated in a good way. Like you can, honesty is one. Like being honest, you know what I'm saying. That can be one of the traits of being genuine. The truth hurts sometimes, but if you're coming with a good place in your heart and or just a favor, anything, if you're doing it out of kindness of your heart and not have that mindset of okay, if I say this, if I do this, I'm gonna get something in return. I don't really think that's more. I don't think that's genuine. I think it's more of just being, you know,
transactional.
transactional. Yeah, I think it's just got to be straight from you. Like, hey, I'm gonna just do this to be better. Like one example, like what's that? Pay it forward. Like if you had a drive-through or something, someone paid like just that right there. You're not really okay. Well, this person's gonna hawk me down and give me $5. Like no one's thinking like, hey, like maybe this right here is gonna make that person behind me have that same love I got in mind to pay it forward again for the person behind me. You know what I'm saying? And that, like I said, that's the same thing we're trying to push with this podcast. Like just influence someone else to. All it takes is that one person we can spark to. It's like a wildfire. One person hits it, then another, then two. Then those two people can hit four, then four, then
Like a
eight.
domino effect.
Domino effect. You know what I'm saying? It just starts with
Yeah,
one. So, but like you said, just a flat out answer. Yes, I think being genuine is. I think it's enough.
yeah. No, I think those are both good comments because being genuine is not only good for like other people, but it's good for you because it's good for like the individual. And I
Mm,
think that being an upright individual, someone that does the right thing, like it has a more positive long-term effect than being the opposite. And you might not even see that genuine, that authenticity that impacts someone else like years later. You might not even ever see it at all.
exactly.
I think that's one cool thing that, at least for myself, that I've learned just by having a relationship with God is when you show and when others have showed grace to me, when I've showed grace to other people, God has shown grace to me all the time. It's like you might not see that effect years down the road, but as long as you're solid and you know who you are as an individual and you stick to your character, then I think it pays dividends that just cannot have the same effect than if it was the opposite. So anyway, fellas, good discussion. Y'all, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining with the recap of the finer things. We'll be on next week. Stay tuned for more posts and updates coming up. We got merch on the way soon. A lot of exciting things. We're just getting started. So we appreciate all the support. Again, feedback. Keep it coming. Much love to y'all. Thank you. Y'all have a
Yeah.
good week.
Let's go. Let's go.